Hello everybody, today we're doing a simple short exercise. We're looking at shape and shading. So we're turning two-dimensional objects into three-dimensional objects with simple shading. And this is a basic exercise. We're using pencils today. I like to use two different sorts of pencil. Staedtler Mars Lumograph. They're great drawing pencils. They're German graphite. And Derwent Cumberland sketching pencils. These are the best graphite in the world. Lake District Cumberland graphite is the best graphite you can get. So I like to use the best pencils. I go down to hard H, right down to 6B, very soft. I don't go any harder than H. But you can go to 6H, very hard. That's a draftsman pencil. Let's get on. I'm using a good old drawing board here, an ancient one. And I'm going to do little cheats here to make life easy for everybody. So I'm going to start with basically drawing the uprights of a cylinder. So here's a cylinder here, here's a cylinder here, my coffee cup. I'm just going to look at that over here and draw it onto here. So the top and bottom of a cylinder are an ellipse. Now ellipse is what happens when a circle is turned. So this here is an ellipse, and it's never sharp at any point. It's always rounded at every point. Let's give this a try. Here is an ellipse. This is freehand drawing. And the ends are soft. Okay? And then the bottom, that is a wider ellipse. So this is the top, the width of the top. Here is the width of the bottom. That's the bottom of the cup. I'm not going to worry about the handle. So okay, nice soft rubber. This is a plastic eraser. And I recommend that everybody uses plastic erasers. It doesn't damage the surface of the paper. Just get rid of all those bits that I don't want. And now we look at the shading. Now, I'm just going to put arrows on everything. Here's an arrow. And that is the direction of the light. So the light source is above us and slightly towards us. The lightest side of this cylinder is going to be here for us. The very lightest is on the other side, but we don't see it. So I'm going to pick up a 3B pencil. And I'm going to work away from the lightest side. So this is the darkest side. And I'm trying to work up and down the cylinder. Okay, so that would be the darkest point. And if I go back to an HB pencil and put in the other side, it's going round a corner away from us. Okay, and then this has a lighter point here. And at this point we can get rid of the other side of the ellipse. Go to an HB again. Okay, just grab a softer pencil bottom would be in its own shadow. There is a shadow for the bottom. And then the inside, oddly enough, again follows the light. So the light shines onto that side. So there wouldn't be a lot to show on that side, but the shadow from the light would be mostly on this side. So this side would be darker. And what we end up with there is what is a hollow cylinder. And it's just made by two shapes, two ellipses, two straight lines, and the shading makes it three-dimensional. So the shading is crucial. In everything around us, everything is made of basic shapes. Most things that are man-made, mechanical, are made with these straight, solid lines. But nature itself contains cylinders, squares, cubes, all sorts of basic shapes, and that's what we're going to look at. So okay, that is our first. Let's get on to our second shape. So our second shape is going to be like a brick shape. I'm not going to bother to use anything as an example to study, just draw it up. Use the ruler. Straight lines up. Lines across. Lines going back. Lines going up. So there we have a basic brick shape, and once again we're going to have the light. Now I'm going to lower the light slightly here, so it's coming onto this side. So this side is getting all the light, that side is getting a lot of the light, and this side is getting very little light because it's coming slightly from the back. So we look at the front side first. Let me get a nice soft pencil. What have I got here? A 4B pencil. Now, pencils are marvellous things. They're more modern than people think. The first pencil factory in the world was in the Lake District, Cumberland. Cumberland as it was, Cumbria now. And that was because Cumberland is one of the major sources of graphite. It's a very, very rare mineral. Extremely hard, extremely rare. So at one time, it was the only place that supplied, even to the Italian schools of art. It was the only place in the world that supplied good graphite for drawings. Before that, people used silver point and other things, charcoal. But pencils are sort of a miracle, really. They're a marvellous thing. We just go to the shop and buy them, don't think about what they contain. Okay, so that's fairly solid. That is the face looking towards us. And then this face here, this face on this side, we can either leave it plain, or we can put in the very faintest bit of shading. Faint bit of shading on there. And then the top, I've really messed that up. The top, back to a harder pencil. And a slightly heavier shading. Going back to the front, so I'm going to a really soft pencil. This is a 6B. Three-dimensional shape. The light's coming back from there. So this would be the shadow. And the shadow would be the darkest point. Okay, so there we have a cube, or a rectangular cube. Nice and simple, but in the world around us, this shape is repeated millions of times over. So just understanding how to draw it and make it three-dimensional is extremely important. So let's go on to our next shape. So our third shape is going to be a cone. So I'm just going to draw a flat. So this is the flat of the ground, the tabletop. And the bottom of a cone would be an ellipse. I'll come on to that in a minute. Choose a point, go straight up. And then you want roughly the same amount either side. And there's the sides of the cone. And the bottom is the ellipse again. So it's a circle turned on its side. And an ellipse is just about as big at the top as it is at the bottom, if that is the centre line. And the ends are never sharp. They're always rounded. This takes a lot of practice. But for this particular exercise, we're just using the front. I like to draw it all in, just so I know I'm getting it fairly right. This isn't perfect, doesn't have to be. It's just an exercise about shape and shading. The light, we're going to have it coming in slightly lower from here. So this is the lighter side. So we show a little bit of shading at the back here. Most of the shading is on this side, and this isn't shown by shading much apart from shadow, but it is an important shape because it makes it certain that it is a cone. So a cone is a round pyramid. Okay, so we'll not worry about this side for the moment. I'll go to a nice soft pencil, 6B, and we'll look at this. So and what will happen, because the light's coming from one source and the cone spreads out, the shading will be deeper, wider at the bottom than it is at the top. So it will in fact always come down in a cone-like shape at any part of this shape. So that's the beginning of our cone. Go down to a 4B. I didn't go down to a 4B then, everybody. I'd move the pencils around. Okay, we can smudge it up a little bit, make it look a little bit more even. And you see we're still coming from the top and following the lines down around the cone. Hopefully to a 3B. This is where you start having to move around, so you move your head around to follow the lines that you're putting on. A little bit darker at the bottom. because it's away from the light. This 2B, so I'm going to use that here and here, because there will be a little bit of shadow just to show that this is a three-dimensional shape. And the shadow is caused by it moving away from you. Okay. One good thing to practice is drawing straight lines without rulers. I'm using a ruler here today because it just makes this exercise that bit easier and quicker. So there is our cone. And here is the shadow, so the light's coming here and the shadow follows the cone. You have to imagine that elliptical shape. And there is the cone. And we see the cone in all sorts of things. So if the cone is square, it's a pyramid. And then we would have straight lines and the shadowing would be slightly different. Okay, so that's 3 shapes. We'll do one more and that is today's exercise is done. The last shape is a sphere. Now, the sphere is actually quite difficult. First of all, we're going to cheat, naturally. And we're going to cheat by using this lid that I've been showing you. I'm just going to draw around it. So what we have there is a circle. And as we know, a sphere is millions of circles all together with one central point. In other words, you can follow it round at any point and it's always the same. And we shall have the light coming in from there and slightly towards us. You see the sphere a lot. Fruit, lots of fruit is spherical. Balls, naturally, footballs, things like that. But in nature there's loads of things that are slightly round. So this is a good one to learn. Get my softest pencil first of all. The light's coming from there. The shadow will always be in crescents. I'm going to make it more obvious for you. It's just like the quarters of the moon. Quarters of the moon are caused by the shadow of the earth and they cause crescents. Crescents of light and crescents of shadow. So this is our first crescent with our softest pencil. Now a bit more about the history of pencils. You should know this. So the graphite from Cumberland that everybody around the world was using only had one hardness. Very hard. It's a very hard compound. A Frenchman by the name of Conté, a name that most artists will know, found a way of mixing graphite with clay, 4B, quite soft. So Conté found a way of mixing different types of clay with graphite, grinding the graphite up. And when he did that, he found he could have different hardnesses and softnesses of the compound, the graphite compound. And he put those into pencils. And immediately the Lake District lost a lot of its customers because the Conté pencils, Conté crayons, were the best thing. And of course, everybody pinched the idea. Just everybody. Now there are thousands and thousands of pencils around the world. This one is a 4B. And you can still buy Conte pencils. They're very good, but these are the best for me. Staedtler Mars, Lumograph and Cumberland and Derwent pencils. Still the very best. Okay, so the light's coming from there, and we know that the furthest away is the darkest, but also it will cause shadows underneath. Slightly darker there. Okay, we can see what's happening now. So as we come nearer to the light, the shadows start moving across, and it ends up with a sort of an ellipse of light on a sphere. So I'm just going to draw on an ellipse of light up against where the light is coming from, and I'm going to work towards it. 3B. Let's see if I can find a 2B. I've got a B here. Now, for all those of you that are students of art, or hoping to improve, or even you professionals who aren't very good with your equipment, always sharpen the pencil with a sharp blade, never a pencil sharpener. And never drop your pencils on the floor, because the lead inside will be broken, the graphite. It will be broken, and as you sharpen it, it will shatter into smaller pieces, and you'll never get the points that you want. I'm doing this quite quickly, so it's not going to be perfect. So we're working up towards that. The light's up here, so there'll be a little bit of shadow on this side at the bottom. Going around. And these shadows always go round, of course, because it's a sphere, everything is round. It'll be dark to about that point. Going round. Okay, looks like a cricket ball. A little touch with the rubber here. And then the shadow underneath. So the shadow of a sphere is nearly always the same size as the width of the sphere. The light's coming from there, so it'll be less here and more here. So there it is, from a simple drawing around a lid to a three-dimensional shape. And these are the basics of all our three-dimensional shapes. That's the end of today's exercises. I hope you all give it a try. This is the basis of drawing. I find it's a necessity to be able to draw these types of shapes and do this sort of shading. So I hope you enjoyed it today. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe please. Subscribing is free. And I'll see you next time with another painting exercise. Goodbye from me, Wills. See you again.